we'll get started. All right, getting a lot of thumbs up. Appreciate that. I'm going to kind of focus more on some product side of the house, customizations, go through some settings, tips, tricks, answer questions. Just kind of, I'm coming up on 12 years here, so I should probably introduce myself. I know I've met most everybody, but Jeff Hebrink, coming up on 12 years with rezStream. I lead the sales and marketing side. So started as an account executive, so did demos and follow-ups and closing deals on software for a long time. So I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of unique ways to use our software, customization, some configuration sections, and I'll for sure leave at least 15 minutes for questions and answers. So whether it's here or online, post questions as we go, and we'll try to cover them. So okay. I'm not going to do too many slide things. So I'm just going to share this one slide and then kind of jump into sort of a demo. So focus here is just kind of making sure you audit and you can customize some of the things on the booking engine. So what the guest sees. So that's what I figured I'd start with. The focus there is because that's, where a lot of your business comes from is online. So just the ability to sort of showcase your uniqueness and what you want. This is the last slide before I get into it. So I took this snapshot this morning, just kind of laid out two examples of what your main booking engine could look like. I don't know online if you can see all of that. It's probably bad on Zoom, but there's some pretty significant differences in some of the terminology that's used, what you're showing on there, like filters, what people can search on. So I plan on covering a lot of that. But for example, just the custom message, yes, you can, or no, you don't need to. The steps along the way, you get control over that. So what you want to say in those steps, you get control over it. Some things you'll notice here. So I'm spotting differences. So check in, check out. So by default, you can set some defaults. So a lot of resorts might in the summertime do weekly stays. So they might want to, when somebody enters their booking engine, the dates are kind of pre-set up to be an arrival and departure is 7 nights. And then when they choose an arrival, it'll automatically try to choose 7 nights from that departure. Same thing with other properties. If you kind of want to lean into a 2-night reservation, you can kind of make sure that's the initial thing. When they log on, they kind of see a 2-night. Obviously, they can change that if they want. And then showing the full calendar. Some people love this, other people don't. So there is the option of showing that or not showing that. If you have ADA accessible units, that part will show. So you can kind of see in the Casa de Hebrink, there's a ADA accessible search box. In the resort, there's not. I haven't defined any ADA units. And then just what you call your units. So a lot of people use rooms. Some people have cabins. Some people do campsites. Any other things, you can call those things. We call them units, but you can call them whatever you want, and you can label them however you want in the booking engine. So an example here, the resort says cabins. Casa de Hebrink says rooms. So those are some of the things I'm going to walk through, kind of how you set that stuff up in the software too. So all right, I am going to switch over to the settings here. So, and just walk through those, and then I'll kind of go show the actual booking engine and how that looks. So if you navigate to the booking engine section, this is where the magic happens. These settings is probably the key part. Everything that I spoke about there is on this screen. So I would encourage everybody to just look at what you have set up. Make sure it's what you want. This is instantaneous, so you can change something, hit save, go refresh your booking engine, and it'll update. So just kind of, play around with that. So we do have the option. Some people don't want to take reservations, but they still want to show availability. So if that's you, you can do allow reservations or just display only. So just make a note there. Most people probably already have that. If you're a larger property and you don't want to let people book an individual room and pick their room, you can go room type. So maybe you've got one bedroom cottage, and that you're not really going to let them choose cottage 1 or cottage 2. You're going to want control over that, so you can do unit type. I'll show you what this means. Enable search filter by property. We call it property in rezStream. It can be used for an actual property. If you have different locations, they can be locations of units. So lakeside versus garden view, or, whatever. So you can filter on those types of things. And I'll show you that, whether you sell packages online or not. Show of hands. I don't know if I can see hands online, but who sells packages on their website? All right. Half the people here, maybe online. I'm not sure. I would encourage everybody. I think everybody could come up with a package to offer, whether that's teaming up with a local business, but you can sell packages, point of sale items. So sometimes I know we got a lot of resort customers that they have sweatshirts or, things like that. You can pre-sell that. So they book a reservation and, oh yeah, by the way, I want this year's sweatshirt or whatever. So you can sell that stuff with the reservation. And then when they get there, you can have that sweatshirt. So this is another key component. How far in advance do you want to let people make a reservation? So I would encourage everybody to go look at this and think about that. I get calls quite often like, hey, I don't want them booking so far in advance, and they weren't aware of this feature. So this is a key component as well. So sometimes you're like, I just got a booking and I had left for the day. When you put a 0 in here, allow bookings between 0, it means you're allowing a same day reservation. And you can cut that off. So if you do 0, you can cut that off. I'll take same day reservations up until 7 p.m. for this example. So if you don't want to take any same day reservations, just change that to 1, and then it'll always be tomorrow as the earliest. Default rooms, units, that's probably always going to be 1. I'm not sure if anybody has changed that. The max number of rooms, this is another key component. Sometimes, like, I only want them to book 1 room because I want to handle group reservations or whatever. So you can set a max, like, hey, you can only book 1. And then again, maybe you can use that custom message to say, hey, we only allow 1 room reservations. If you need more, please call for group reservations. And then here's that default length of stay that I'm talking about, and max length. Again, so sometimes I've heard of people like they just booked a 2-week reservation. I didn't want that. So you can restrict them from staying longer. Again, maybe that's a phone call you'd rather have them have, so you could kind of restrict that on. This is another important one. I feel like how they're going to appear. So people search for dates, arrival, departure. It's going to show what you have available. How do you want that ordered? Do you want it highest price units to show up first, down to lowest? Do you want it just kind of how I have it set up in the software, in there, lowest to highest, or by capacity? So there's some options there. And then I'll show you this when I kind of do the live demo, but how it's going to display the rates. You can do an average nightly or the total. And you can see the average nightly sort of separates, it'll just have the unit rate, and then it'll have some like fees and taxes separately, but the average or the total will be with fees. So I'll kind of show you that. And then finally, before I head on into the booking engine, there is this. So remember when I said you can kind of choose what these are called. So I just said, pick your cabin for step 2. Typically that says, I think, accommodations is what the default is there. Enhancements, you could say add-ons. I think my other fake property here has like add-ons and upsells or anything like that. You can label it. And then your unit terms. So this is where you can say, I do cabins, or I do rooms, or if you have campsites, things like that. And then it wants you to do a plural to that. So cabin and then cabins. So those are kind of all the settings, how that looks online. So this, I should go to the resort one since that's the one I was just on. So I have the property filter on. That's why you saw that. So that's one of the biggest differences there. And in this case, like I called it a type. So my properties called it a type. So that's where I could sort of restrict my filter. Hey, I just want to see cabins. I want to do an arrival, departure, choose my guests, and I just want to show cabins. So when I do that search, it's going to automatically search only for cabins. You'll notice that this full calendar, if you do show the calendar, that also removed any of the other units since I selected that. This is a custom message. Who adds a custom message to their booking engine? Anybody here? All right, nobody? This is if you want to guide your guest in any way. This only shows up on desktop, but so if you, I got some thumbs up and awesome. If you want to say, like maybe there was a big weather event, but you want to let people, when they get to your booking engine, you want to let people, we are open, we didn't get, any damage, things like that. Because you can put this on and take it off. So there might be just like weather coming in or whatever. You can post the little message on here. And then after a week or two, the concern dies down, you can remove that message. So that's just an example of how you could do a custom message, even if you normally wouldn't have that on there constantly. So that's kind of all the customizations that we talked about there. I did want to, going back to Paul's questions about the individual unit calendars. So we always recommend 3 different entry points into your booking engine on your website. So one is the obvious button, book online or check availability. The other one is the widget on the bottom of the screen. You can have the widget just kind of always there, no matter what site. And then the final one is where if people are poking around their website, they're checking out an individual unit. They're like, oh, what's the Loon cabin like? You can actually put a calendar for that specific unit or a unit type. So again, if there's some people out here that sell by type, hopefully you have a page on your website that talks about that unit type, has photos. This is where you could put the calendar on there. So then they could actually click on an arrival, click on a departure, and start that reservation right there. And then again, customization city, you can show rates on here or not show rates. This is an example where it shows rates on this calendar. I think most people don't show rates right here. They wait until they click on it. So those are some of the customizations and the ways to get in the booking engine. So that's kind of what I wanted to focus on for customizations on there. Now, the other part I wanted to focus on, since we're talking about the booking engine, is more about the analytics side and connecting the dots. So you take online reservations and making sure you have your analytics side set up so you can kind of track that revenue from the source. So I'm not going to cover a ton, but this is an example. A lot of people don't have this set up in our software. So your GA4 account to kind of do revenue tracking. So this is an example of what your report, like in Google, this is a GA4, Google Analytics. This is what your report could look like if you don't have it set up. So where's my traffic coming from? And at the last column there is, what revenue did I get from that source? And they could all be zeros. That means it's not set up. What it should look like is, from organic search, I got 18,240, or paid ads made 14,000 during this time period. I only spent 500 to get that 14,000. Let's up that to $1,000. How much would I get? So it really allows you to sort of track. And if you're not doing that, this next slide shows that. I don't think on Zoom, sorry, Zoom, I don't think it allows you to click on my screen. But if you need that, there is a user knowledge base article that kind of goes through that. And step 2 here on the screen is when you get all that set up. So number 1 here, when you go into that guide, it'll kind of talk you through getting those scripts on your website. And then there's a measurement ID in your analytics. Get that to us and then send it in to our support. if you're one of our website owners, you can send that actually to all of the scripts and everything. Just send it to changes at, and we will get all of those scripts on every page of your website. So I just kind of wanted to mention that as long as we were talking about booking engine, because it is one of those things that we can do that the majority of our customers don't have set up. So it's just one thing. If you happen to not have that set up, reach out to us. You can do this all on your own and just send us the ID. If you're not familiar with GA4, Google Analytics, the setup of it all, we do have Liz, her team, Holly, her team. We have that as a resource. Reach out to us. We can do like a one-time setup if you just kind of want to help setting up your Google Analytics. And then, of course, we could also do the marketing analysis and everything else too. But reach out to us. Don't sit there without any data. Just contact us, and we'd love to help out. So, all right. Any questions on that in person? I don't see anybody raising their hand here, so we'll just keep going. The next thing I wanted to focus on is the occupancy map, because this is where we find, through our analytics, we find most people sort of live and breathe in the occupancy map. So I just wanted to recap some of the settings, some of the different things you can do here, because sometimes people get in a pattern, they set it up on onboarding, and they just kind of start working and keep doing it, and they aren't aware of these features. So a lot of people are, but I'd always like to cover it. So the general setup of it all: units down the side, dates across the top. This little settings icon allows you to basically determine, depending upon your screen size, how many like days of the week you're going to be able to show. So shrink that down or extend it. So play with that to really hone in on your monitor size. This is, for me, I feel is really important. Some people want to just cram if they've got 30, 40 units. They want to all on the same screen. So they shrink it way down skinny. I'll just save that to just show you what it looks like in that manner. So I've seen some calendars like this, and that's totally fine. You can do that. What I like to do, and you can see down on the bottom here, it's actually showing you a preview. I actually like to go have it right below 4 lines. What that allows me to do is actually show some custom fields on the calendar. So I kind of maybe keep track of allergies or estimated arrival time. Are they bringing pets? Those types of things. And what this setting allows me to do is show that right down there. So when I hit save, if I were to back up here and too far. So if I go into Archie Bunker, forgot he's staying with me, and add some allergies, like I'll just put no feather pillows. Now on the calendar, without having to even click in there, viewing that, I get to see allergies, no feather pillows. That's just something that, I've shown people like, oh, that is something. Would you rather show as many units and not get as much information? Or would you rather show more information and then maybe have to scroll? And that's clearly up to you guys, however you want to do that. The other thing I like to show, since I, work with a lot of people, is the colors over here on the side. You can change colors of units, and then you can see that in my settings, I have some bars over here too. So that's actually in the unit colors area. So you can show unit, you can just get rid of all these, and then it will just be by the way, if nobody knows, I'm colorblind. I think it's gray. It'll just be the gray background. But otherwise I can say, all right, I want to do some shading of the units, and I maybe want to show that property bar. So like I was showing like types of units or campsites or anything like that. So in that, I'm in the different things. So I have a garden view and stream side. So visually how that works is each unit colors. So maybe these unit colors indicate capacity of the unit, or, whatever you want it to be. And then you'll notice on the side here, I believe that's yellow. I believe that's blue-ish. Right. Getting thumbs up. That's more like the location of the unit, right? So again, visually, if you have employee turnover, sometimes this is really helpful. So, so it's like, oh, they wanted a garden view, and I didn't know which one. We do have the hover where they can, just kind of hold over the unit and get a little explanation of the unit. Otherwise, visually, they can instantly see when you train that person, hey, anything on the yellow there is a garden view, anything blue is lake view. So just some customizations that you can do. Of course, I have to throw in emojis where I can. So that's another thing you can do. So I put one bed behind the sportman, indicates that that unit has one bed, two behind, room 102. Just those are kind of unique things that you can do to just kind of customize this. All right. I feel like I'm talking fast. Question.
When you change the cell height to show the allergy, is that a key item? Is that how you enter that? Like, how would you put in that information?
So that's when you're taking the reservation. So let's make a reservation. Oh yeah. So the question is, thank you. The question was, when I expanded the height to include this last row, was basically how do you enter that information? For one thing, it isn't something I showed on the booking engine, but you can actually ask those questions online. Do you have any allergies? They could fill that in, and then it would come in and automatically show here. And I think maybe I understand your question too. So let's make a reservation. Going in here, and as long as I'm here, I'm going to showcase a new feature that we built based upon user feedback is exemption. We can now exempt fees. So I don't know if anybody here was one of those, but we heard that a lot. So now we didn't make this big announcement. So anybody online that wanted that, you can exempt it right here. So if I wanted to exempt the dog feed, things like that, I can actually exempt it here. Booking, I make the reservation, and in this reservation, so when I finalize, that's where you're like, okay, great, got your information. Do you have any allergies? You could say no if you wanted to. That way they would always show up as no. I'll just put something in there. All right. So now I had allergies on there. I think maybe what you were referring to also is, okay, I'm going to back up again. Starts at the configuration. So let's back up how you set that up to be sort of on there. So in the configuration section, you have custom fields and dates. So here is where I added all of those custom fields. I'm going to add a new one, new custom field. I can flag as important. That's one thing that's going to show. And then, is this something you're tracking about the person? So it kind of lives on the person record, or is it something for a specific reservation? And this one, you'd want to do reservation. So you set all that up, view it as important. And then in that settings, the display settings under show custom fields is where you see that drop down. And then this is where you can toggle things off. Because maybe not everything is important. If everything is important, then you're just going to have just too much information. So you can show just a few of those things like, hey, if anybody has allergies, I want that to show. So I toggle that on. I always want to see if they happen to know estimated arrival time. Maybe they're coming in at 11 o'clock at night. That's pretty unusual. So you just got to remember that. Are they bringing pets? That's something super important. So you can show that. So that's kind of how you toggle that on. Did that answer? All right, cool. Yeah.
You have a question, Jeff.
Okay. How to add pets? Oh, okay. So the question was, yep. So the question, and you guys probably already see that, but for everybody, the question is, how do you get pets to be able to be selected on the booking engine? So good question. It kind of goes, yeah. So in the configuration section, you've got the guest types. So this is where you can set up in general. So this is where you set up. I want to know adults, children, pets, or I just want to know number of guests. Like I really don't care about that. So you can sort of track, you can enter like what you want to track specifically. And then in the booking engine section, it is under settings, right? No, I'm losing track here. That's custom fields. I'm trying to track how you want to like show that on the booking engine. Bookable guest categories. There you go. So this is where I have in my software, I want to track adults, children, pets, but do I want that to show up online? Yes or no? So if you do, that's where you can say, yes, I want that. So then in the booking engine, now they can select the number of pets.
Sounded like maybe they had set up as a custom field.
Oh, okay.
Kind of two options.
Yeah. So the booking engine section again. So that's in the booking engine section, custom fields. So good point, tying it all together. This is how you would be able to show those custom fields. So the allergies, for example, since I was talking about that, do I want that to show up in the final booking process? So I already have it saying, yes, I want to show it, but they don't have to fill it in. So this is where, oh, I do have pets. Pets, so you want to show but allow them to skip it, or you want to show and they have to enter something here. So you can force them to enter, like maybe estimated arrival time. If you want everybody to give you an estimated arrival time, you can force that on there. Caution, don't make everything required. Don't make them pick a dates, pick the unit, do any add-ons, fill in all their information, and now I've got another 15 questions I got to go answer. I'd rather see you take that reservation and then call them if you really need the data. Hey, thanks, great. I just have a few more questions that we cover. So it's one tip trick. So I think I answered that question. Yeah, so another one.
Well, they didn't read all the requirements.
Yep.
So if there's a box that says, yes, I have read the requirements, I understand fully that I'm responsible for that.
Yep. So that's a good point. So this is probably where I was going to go back to anyway. So great questions. Let's go through an actual booking now. So we've kind of got the setup done, how you can do that. I'm going to use my resort database on that. So I can come in, choose an arrival date. Again, by default, it's going to try to, I said I want 7 days. So it's going to try to fill it in. Now I can change that, but by default, it's going to choose 7 on there. It didn't allow me to choose more than 7 because I said max 7. So I could not pick a date further than 7 nights. This is where now I can select, cabins, adults, children, do my selection. I just want to see cabins. I hit search. Now select your cabin or boat. This is where I said average daily rate. So it kind of, this is where I show the total, but it does list out the additional fees. That is something we changed. We had to change last year just because of the Google hotels and the transparency acts that are going on. You have to sort of include that and show that here. You can't sort of show it the final step. You got to show it at the booking process. Add-ons packages. I'm just going to add one here and go to the final step of filling in my information. So let's just CS conference booking. And I'm going to just put this address in so I don't have to fill it out. Now, if anybody didn't know, there's a 4 and followed by 15 ones is actually a test number that I can use. So this is where the additional information shows up. So it's too bad I actually showed the bed and breakfast one and now I'm on this one. But this is where you can see those additional questions. Now I am forcing, if it's bold, I am forcing that. So I'm going to try to leave that blank. But going back to the actual question here is terms and conditions. We expose the first few lines. So this maybe is another tip trick. I encourage everyone, especially if you have any sort of unique cancellation policy, anything like that, to do something like please read. Because we all know a lot of times you're booking, there's a box, which there is, and they have to click that box. But a lot of times they're just like, yep, okay, go and move on. Now they did say that they read it and agreed to it, but please read. And so I put asterisks and it's all in red and it's bold and it's underlined. It just sort of brings an alert so that the guest is probably going to read that. And again, you can see I made bold, bigger font for underline the important stuff, and then maybe just other stuff you can have down the pad. But if I don't click that and I try to hit book, now it's going to show me what did I miss. So I required that field to be filled out. So I'm going to put something in there, and I required to check that box. So I have to click that box, and now I can actually book that reservation. So that's kind of the process, how you can restrict people from making reservations without putting in the appropriate information you want. So I think that answered your question on that. So yeah, add the checkbox will always be there. So the checkbox is something that is always there. Do you mean the message? How do you create that message? All right. So let's go in there into the booking engine, and it is stay conditions and policies. So this is kind of like Microsoft Word there, right? It's not, but you'll see on the top is a bunch of toolbars. So this is where you can come in and type. You can do different fonts. You can do different font sizes. So if I want something huge, I can put that in there. The font color is this button right here. So that's where I turn that red. Then, of course, we got the bold, underline, things like that. So customize it in any way, shape, or form. You don't have to follow that, but it's just sort of a tip trick that the majority, if you kind of do that, the majority of people probably have at least read it because you've learned it. They'll probably say they didn't. Even, if they really don't want to pay you and they're really trying to cancel, they'll say they didn't. So I think that answered your question. All right, cool.
To account for a contract. You use terms and conditions. I know you're not an attorney.
Yeah, so I'm not an attorney and I'm not a credit card processor, and there's chargeback rules, and it's hard to crack that code for chargeback type things because card companies tend to always sort of side with their customer, which is the card holder. But it is one of those things that it's probably not a contract, be my guess. Yeah, so there's not a way to actually sign it on here. Yeah, that's kind of commonplace. You probably book online. You probably have never really signed an actual like on an online booking, right? Usually go there and maybe they have you sign something. James will be doing our roadmap later today. We'll kind of get into maybe a little bit about what we have planned for some of that stuff. But good question. But yeah, on the booking engine, we have no way to make them physically sign. Yeah.
It'll kind of learn. I get quite a few phone calls, reservations via phone.
Yeah. How do you're right.
I've not had an issue.
You just got to click that box. Oh, yeah. 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 He was just commenting that he wishes that he could just click buttons on there for people. Yep. Yep. Did I miss one? I just repeated his. All right. Yep. Yeah, I know. I'm just saying I did for that one. I just wonder if I missed any other ones. So hopefully I didn't. All right. I've got more, but so far, so good. This is another one. I'm going to show this booking engine just because this is something I was just kind of toying around with because I get asked a lot. So I'm going to just choose arrival departure here, hit search. You'll notice that by default, we show the first like line and a half here of the unit description. So I just did something here in that unit description that maybe people instantly want to know how many beds does it, maybe you're pet friendly, but maybe only in certain rooms. So this is kind of a tip trick scenario where you could use emojis, put the people sign, the number of its sleeps and the queen beds and no pets, just right there. Of course, they can hit view description, then it expands that, but it's just one of those things that you could put on there. This is another tip trick. I encourage everyone to have a unit description. So that's information about the unit. And then even if you only offer one rate, I encourage you to put a rate description on there. This is where if you're working with OTAs, things like that, I always encourage people to maybe label your rate as like a book direct rate or, whatever, and maybe entice them like, hey, this includes free Wi-Fi and 2 bottles of water, whatever, just something maybe to showcase that. But you can put the rate description on there. I always encourage you to sort of put both of those things on there. So, and then this is just kind of the standard process that we went through. So, all right. So that was another thing. Reports. I know that was a specific question that people have in general. So over the last year, we did announce this, right? So we've migrated. We were using a reporting platform that was sort of restrictive and just we weren't able to keep up with that. But we built kind of a new reports. It's very similar. We really tried hard to keep it in the same structure, different things like that. But it is a little bit different in the fact that you used to have to click a report, then choose your dates, which you can still do. But here you can actually set it, choose your dates right now and then run your report and it'll actually just do that date. And then it'll kind of like save this. So if I go run a different one, it'll use those same dates. So report subscriptions. So maybe thumbs up online, hands up. Who uses subscriptions for reports? One person in here. Does everybody know what subscriptions are? Because I'm going to tell you. So if there is a report that you typically find yourself coming in every day or every Monday or the first of every month, and you do that consistently, you can actually subscribe to that report. So maybe it's the booking pace report. And I always maybe want to run that on a weekly basis, anything like that. So there is this button to click on up here, little envelope button. I'm going to add a subscription. So this is now where I want this. A good one is like this year. So for a booking pace, like this year. So I want, that's the time period booked as of like today. And then I want it repeated monthly on the first day. So this is an example of on the first of every month, I want this booking pace. How am I tracking for the entire year? And I want it emailed to me. And I want it, hey, I get in at 7 a.m. I want to have my cup of coffee. Look how fantastic I'm doing this year. So 7 a.m., first of every month, I'm going to get my booking pace for the year. I want it in an Excel format or a CSV just because now maybe I want to manipulate that data. So I want it in an Excel format. And then you can put the email subject line, whatever you want that to be. And then, what you want your email to say. But that'll actually come as an attachment. So if you find yourself running, in this example, the booking pace every week or first of every month, subscribe to that. And then you're never going to. The other great thing about that is it's going to be stored in your email. So you could always refer back to it. You could always just shove that in a folder in your Outlook and then kind of go back and that could be your storage. So yeah. I'll show you. Somebody beat you to it in the middle. So someone online was asking if you could print in landscape or portrait. So I'm going to just choose this since I have this report built up. I'm going to hit the print button. And this actually brings up like a printer dialog. So your computer's printer dialog. I probably don't have a printer, so it's wondering what I can do. But you can see here, I do have a layout option on here. So it says by default portrait, but I could change that. So I'm going to cancel that just because it's thinking. I broke it. Todd, I see your hand is raised. Oh, as soon as I figure this out. All right. So question online now. You had a different question. Show you what? Oh, okay. Yeah. So this is an example of how it looks on screen. Okay, great. So people online can probably see that question, but anybody in here, so it was just kind of like a tip trick. He runs this quarterly, throws it into a ChatGPT and sort of asks ChatGPT, hey, can you tell me more information about that? I actually demoed some of that too. Like I showed somebody just take like all of your reservations in that big export and it exports everything and then just load that into ChatGPT and just ask it a bunch of questions. Hey, who's booked? You know, who's not, who hasn't booked this year that was here last year? Those types of things. Quick. So, all right, I've got multiple. Okay. The subscription quarterly? Can you? All right. So the answer is you can't. So yeah, the question is, can you do it quarterly? I think I did repeat the question. Sorry. Can you do it quarterly? No, the answer is no, you can't right now. It is daily, weekly, or a month. So that's kind of, you know, maybe do you mean the time period? Okay. Yeah. So same thing here. We don't actually have quarters. We have weeks, months, years, next week, month, year. So maybe that's a suggestion to add quarters in there. So
It's worth noting, we used to have that, nobody was using it, so we did.
okay. James,
Sounds like we have.
James was just mentioning here, we did have that in our old reporting when doing analytics. We hardly saw anybody using quarterly, so it was just one thing that we didn't add on this, but we'll add that to the list. Yeah.
One comment. Definitely careful when you drop that in. I was on a seminar not too long ago with Indian reservation, and they have lots of data. Because they can't use ChatGPT because the other competitors can then pull up their information that's out there. So kind of be careful what you put out there.
Yeah.
Because you can go in there and pull up your unit name and say, give me all the information about fireside chat. And if you use ChatGPT, all that data is pulled up.
All right. So the comment here was just be careful with AI and ChatGPT. Competitors can search on your data. Good point. Good question. AI is going berserk right now. It seems like every week advancements in AI is like what it used to take a year before. So, but good point. All right. I got the 5-minute warning. Any other questions? I kind of covered pretty much everything I wanted to cover. Yeah, one more question here.
Can you show us you have to set up page like you do for your results?
Oh, just show the calendar? Yeah, so that is, so he's just, the question was, can it just show you how I book up like the calendar, show the calendar on this booking engine to kind of make it look like this. So let's go into my resort database. So that is in the booking section again, and it is under full availability calendar. So this is where I can show or hide. So if I hide, obviously it goes away. I can show it. There is some customization that you can do to this in addition. So yes, I want to show it. Do I want to show rates on there as well? That's a toggle. Things to consider. If you have multiple rates, I might not show rates because we can only show one rate on the calendar. So if you've got multiple, I would just say maybe don't select that, but you can play around with that. Days to display, you can change that. We do just have a little note here. Change it, save it, go on your booking engine, refresh it just to make sure that it, it fits appropriately. I think this morning I had it at 10 and I changed it to 14 and no issues. So just kind of, that's how you show it, hide it, show rates, not show rates, different things. So
Be wise to have like a desktop when you're looking at 14 degrees on.
yeah. So what happens on a mobile booking engine? The question was, would it be useful to have like a mobile only show a certain number of days and a desktop show other days? So that was the question. By default, everything's responsive except that calendar shows, and it shows a few days, but it is swipeable left and right. So that's kind of how that works on a phone. So I can demo that later or anybody wants to see it, but that's kind of how it works. All right. I finished in time. All right. No other questions. Appreciate everybody. Appreciate the questions. I'm here all day. Just ping me. So I'm going to stop and I think we're going to take a little break. The next up is Take Up. So we're super excited about that. So hang tight.